Hello, it's Mrs. Hoekstra, Module 2, Lesson 5, Understanding Subtraction of Integers and Other Rational Numbers. So we're going from addition now into subtraction. Woohoo! How in the world does that change anything? Subtraction. If you'll notice my essential question, what does SMATO, S-M-A-T-O, what does SMATO mean? Okay, since it's all in caps like that, it's probably some kind of an abbreviation for something, right? I'll give you a hint, like LOL, OMGs, right? SMATO is, they all represent a different word. We're going to figure out what that is. All right, what does SMATO mean? Well, this whole page here on page 34 is all about a game that we will be playing in class when you come back to class. So we're going to skip page 34, and then page 35 is analyzing that game. So we're going to skip that one as well. So skip page 35. Don't cross it out. We're going to come back to it while we're in class. We're going to play a game. All right, so we're actually going to start then on page 36. All right, go to page 36, example 2, talking about subtracting. Follow along as I complete this diagram below, right? So let's suppose you were given 2 cards. We've got this game, and you have a 4 and a 2, and your, job is to figure out how much that equals. Well, hopefully you guys, are pretty good with this at this point, right? So we go 4, and then another 2, right? 4 and 2, and we get an answer of 6, right? Pretty easy, pretty straightforward, nothing new, right? That's what addition looks like when we add them on. Okay, well, the next diagram, right, shows us discarding, right? You're taking your card, you have them, right, and you discard, right? You put it in the pile, you're getting rid of it. So notice there's a couple ways we can write that and show it. So when you're working on these problems in class or on the homework or on a quiz or test, right, these are different ways that you can demonstrate this. So show that discarding or subtracting, discarding is subtracting a positive card, which is the same as subtracting a positive number, decreases the value of the hand. All right, so take a look at this. We have 4. So again, we're going to go and bunny hop all the way to 4, or draw a straight arrow over to 4, however you want to draw it. All right, we've got 4. And then we're going to add 2, just like we did a minute ago. We're going to add 2. Right, so here's our plus 4, and here's our plus 2. And then we're going to subtract 2. So I'm going to go back to 6. I'm going to come back 2. All right, so where does it give me? It brings me all the way back to 4. All right, let's take a look at another way of writing this out, right? I could, instead of doing it that way, let's suppose I didn't discard, but I actually picked up an additional card, and this time it was a negative card. So I start with my 4, just like we did a minute ago. Suppose we keep getting the exact same hand over and over again. 4, and I add 2, right? So I've got my 4, and I add 2, and now I'm going to have my negative 2, right? Where does it put me? Puts me right back again at 4, right? Brings me right back to where I was. By the way, right, let's go back to that green, that first example here. What if I just said, what's 2 minus 2? What if I asked you, what's 2 minus 2? Well, you're going to tell me, Mrs. Hoekstra, that's just 0. Yep, and 4 plus 0 is 0, right? Those just turn out to 0. Or if we do this one that I did in purple here, right? And I have 4 plus 2 plus negative 2. Remember we talked about additive inverse, right? Look at those. That's the additive inverse. Those are the additive inverses of each other, right? So in other words, that's still going to be 0, right? Because the additive inverse always makes 0. So 4 plus 0 still gets you 4, right? Well, here's the key. All right, big idea, really important. Put a star, put a smiley face, put a heart, do something so that this jumps out at you and goes, oh yeah, that's pretty important. Grab a highlighter, do something, right? These are important ideas here. So removing or subtracting, removing or subtracting a positive card changes the score the same way as adding a card whose value is the additive inverse. or its opposite. All right? That's what that's saying. Here's another way of looking at it if you want an actual physical example. All right? You want a physical example. If I gave you 4 minus 2, right? 4 minus 2, according to what we just have there, it's the same equals as adding the additive inverse. What's the additive inverse of positive 2? Negative 2, right? 2 plus negative 2, they're additive inverses of each other, right? So that's why I changed that. So that's what that one is talking about there. That's a very important rule. Highlight it, circle it, do something puffy cloud. Make sure it jumps out at you so when you are working on your assignment in class, you'll know what to do. All right, let's go on to the top of page 37. Example 3, subtracting a negative number. Ooh, a minute ago we were subtracting a positive. Now we're going to subtract a negative number. The other one's pretty easy. This one gets a little more confusing. So let's start with what we did a minute ago. Right, I have a card that's a 4, and I'm going to add a negative 2 to it. So I think I'll draw this one straight. Okay, I've got a 4, and I add a negative 2 card to it, and I end up here at 2, right? I have 4, and I added negative 2 to it, and I ended up at 2. Well, how does removing a negative card, right? Remember, we're going to discard, we're going to get rid of. How's that going to change the score? All right, so again, we can do the same idea. Let's go 4, right? And we're going to remove a negative 2. Well, how in the world does that look? I'm going to remove, I'm going to do the negative 2, but I'm going to remove it, right? I'm going to cancel it out. It doesn't exist. I'm going to remove it. I think maybe I'll use yellow. I'm going to remove it. If I remove it, cancel it out, okay, what do I have left? Where am I? I'm still at 4. All right. Take a look at this next one. What if instead of subtracting, right? I'm going to hang on. I'm going to go here a second. I'm going to put this around here. Kind of notice what I did there. All right. Now let's go to the next one here. So 4 plus negative 2, right? I got those 2 cards, and then I got another card, and it was a positive 2. All right, let's see what happens. If I draw my number line, I go to 4. I'm going to back up 2, and then I'm going to add 2, right? Just suppose I have 3 cards instead. Where do I end up? I end up back at 4 again. All right, take a look at that. Look at this part here. Compare these two. Compare those two. What do you notice? Well, they both have a negative 2. The top one is negative 2, right? And the bottom one is a positive 2. What I want you guys to think of when you see this negative 2, I'm going to put a little puffy cloud around that, okay? I don't want you to say minus negative 2. When you see that, I want you to read it or say, right? This is how I want you to say it. I want you to say the opposite of negative 2. If you say it as the opposite of negative 2, think in your head, what is the opposite of negative 2? Well, it's positive 2, right? And sure enough, that's what I have down here. I have a positive 2. The opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. So in other words, that top one and that bottom one are the same. Of course, you can tell by the number lines, they both were at 4. But because the way I said that first one, you're like, oh, the opposite of negative 2, it's a lot easier to write just positive 2. All right, we've got another key idea down here. So put a star, smiley face. You know what? I'll do a smiley face, I think, this time. Let's do a big old smiley face. This one's very important. I'm going to put some, right? Oh, that's really bad. I'm going to start over. I want my smiley face to look good. You guys want your smiley faces to look good too, don't you? Right? I'm going to color that in. There's my smiley face. Here we go. This is important. This is really important. Removing, which is subtracting, right? Subtracting a negative card. I'm going to underline the word negative. Subtracting a negative card changes the score in the same way as adding a card whose value is the additive inverse. Because again, look at what we had a minute ago. They were additive inverses of each other, right? That's the additive inverse right there, or the opposite. The rule of subtraction, bottom of page 37. Again, super important that we know this rule. Okay, super important that we get this rule. So, in other words, in this rule, subtracting, right? Subtracting a number, is the same as adding its opposite. Or you could say additive inverse. Okay? Subtracting a number is the same as adding its opposite. Okay? Top of page 38. When you're ready, go there. Top of page 38, exercises 1, 2, and 3. I want you guys to give these try on your own. Give them a try, right? Hit pause. You try it on your own. Check back with me. See how you did compared to me, and hopefully we get the same answers. All right, hit pause. Okay, well, I have 1 and 2 done, and I'm going to go over 3 with you guys. So number 1A, I got 6. B, I got -5. C, I have -10. And D, I have -7. Now, if you have them wrong and you see your mistake, quick change it. If you have it wrong and you can't figure out why you have something different than I do, put a question mark by it. So when you come into class tomorrow, you can, be like, hey, Mrs. Hoekstra, I didn't understand how you got that. And I'll go over it in class. All right. Number 2A, when you had to find the differences, right? I got 3. B, I have 19. And C, I have -6. Again, look at them. See what you have. See what I have. Can you figure out why we have the same answers or don't? If you're still confused, put a question mark by it and ask me when you come to class. All right, so now number 3, write 2 equivalent expressions that represent the situation. What is the difference in the elevations? All right, so an airplane flies at 25,000 feet, right? So we've got this airplane. Don't laugh at Mrs. Hoekstra's drawings. There is Mrs. Hoekstra's airplane, right? There's the prop. Yep, it's flying around. There's my airplane. And then I have a submarine underwater. Again, don't laugh at my drawings because Mrs. Hoekstra is not an artist. Okay, there's my submarine. Okay, and the airplane is 25,000 feet above the water, and the submarine is 600 feet below the sea level, below it, right? And how far apart, that's what they want to know. How far apart are they, right? This is 25,000 feet, and this is 600 feet. So I have 25,000, right? And the difference should give me a clue. I'm going to subtract. And then 600 below is -600. Well, when I have that double subtraction, think of the opposite. What is the opposite of -600? The opposite of -600 is +600, right? What is the opposite? And so this becomes 25,600. They are 25,600 feet apart. Okay? 2 expressions. Well, I got 3 of them actually, right? Here's one expression. Here's a second expression, and then the third one's the actual answer. All right, now go back to the essential question. It wanted to know, what is SMATO? All right, and if you haven't kind of figured it out, SMATO is an abbreviation for everything that I just did. All right, SMATO, S-M-A-T-O. The S is subtraction. Subtraction means add the opposite. Subtraction means add the opposite. Look at that airplane problem. We subtracted negative 600, but in the second part of it, we added the opposite. Right? You see that? Go back to 2b. Right? Subtraction means add the opposite. I subtracted. What's the opposite of negative 8? Positive 8. Look at 2a. Right? What's the opposite of subtracting a negative 5? Adding a 5. Subtraction means add the opposite. Smato. Subtraction means add the opposite. All right. See you guys later.